आपकी लॉन्ग टर्म प्लानिंग को भी अफेक्ट कर रही है। तो इन सब बातों की चर्चा के लिए आज हमने रोहित जी को इनवाइट किया हुआ है एंड हम बड़े आभारी हैं उनके भी, जो उन्होंने अपने बिजी शेड्यूल से ये टाइम निकाला। तो प्रोग्राम की अब शुरुआत करते हैं। थोड़ी टेक्निकल इश्यू रही थी शुरुआत में, बट अब ठीक है चीजें। तो आई वुड लाइक टू रिक्वेस्ट आवर फाउंडर कन्वीनर श्री दुर्गादास अग्रवाल जी कि आप प्रोग्राम की शुरुआत कराएं, एक प्रोग्राम की रूपरेखा तय करें और रोहित जी के बारे में जरूर कुछ बोलें। ओवर टू यू सर।
Thank you, Sandeep ji, the convener of our study circle. Welcome, रोहित वासवानी जी। क्योंकि जीएसटी पे जब भी सेमिनार की सोचते हैं तो नाम याद आता है, रोहित जी को बुला लो। पड़ोसी हैं, ज्यादा परिचित है, तो बस सीधा अधिकार वहीं जाता है। और पिछले सालों से जब से जीएसटी अप्लाई हुआ, क्योंकि आप उस ट्रेड में थे, एक्साइज में, पता है मुझे, एक्साइज कंसल्टेंसी आप काफी करते थे, तो आपके लिए बड़ा पहले वेट भी करते थे, लेकिन जीएसटी को आपने इतने अच्छे से ग्रास्प कर लिया और इतने अच्छे से बताते हैं कि आप नॉट ओनली दिल्ली और एनसीआर, आपकी जो है डिमांड पूरे ऑल ओवर इंडिया में आपकी डिमांड होने लगी है एज ए स्पीकर। और हमें बड़ा अच्छा लगता है कि हमारे परिचित, हमारे दोस्त, हमारे छोटे भाई, उनको इतना प्यार मिलता है प्रोफेशन से। तो आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत। और जैसा संदीप जी ने बताया कि जीएसटी तो महीने में एक बार सेमिनार करना ही पड़ जाता है। इतने चेंजेस, इतनी कॉम्प्लिकेशंस, इतनी सारी ऑटोमेशन, इन स्पाइट ऑफ दैट फिर भी कुछ क्लैरिफिकेशन चाहिए होता है। इसलिए हमने सोचा कि आज का सेमिनार 1-2 घंटे का पूरा जीएसटी पे रखें, और टॉपिक भी रख दिया रिसेंट डेवलपमेंट्स। वो ज्यादा पता रोहित जी को है, तो अपने हिसाब से लेंगे। आप पार्टिसिपेंट से रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप डोंट हेजिटेट टू रेज एनी क्वेश्चन। जो क्वेश्चन आंसर जो हमारा ब्लॉक है उसमें आप डाल दीजिएगा, और बाकी अगर रोहित जी परमिट करें तो बीच में भी आप रेज हैंड करके कोई अपना क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं। तो इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं रोहित जी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत करना चाहूंगा, सब पार्टिसिपेंट्स की तरफ से भी करना चाहूंगा, और पार्टिसिपेंट्स का, क्योंकि जितने पार्टिसिपेंट्स होंगे, जितना इंटरेक्टिव सेमिनार होगा, उतना ही आनंद आएगा हम ऑर्गेनाइजर्स को भी, और सुनने वालों को भी, और स्पीकर को भी ऑफ कोर्स। क्योंकि अदरवाइज क्या होता है, हम तो जरा ना वीडियो ऑफ करके बैठ जाते हैं और स्पीकर बेचारे अपने आप बोलते रहते हैं। कोई सुन रहा नहीं सुन रहा पता नहीं, लेकिन अगर इंटरेक्टिव होगा तो डेफिनेटली आनंद आएगा। क्योंकि फेस टू फेस का अलग आनंद है, लेकिन वेबिनार का भी एक अपना आनंद है, क्योंकि ये एक हमारे पास एक एविडेंस भी बन गई। आप बाद में भी रेफर कर सकते हैं, लेकिन अभी जो है आपके कोई क्वेश्चन कोई दिमाग में आता है तो आप उसको रेज कर सकते हैं, तो बड़ा अच्छा रहेगा। और हमें पूरा समय मिलता है 2 घंटे का, अदरवाइज फिजिकल में इतने बहुत सारे टाइम वैसे ही वेस्ट हो जाते थे। तो इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ आप सभी का स्वागत, रोहित जी का स्वागत। पार्टिसिपेंट्स अभी मैं देख रहा हूँ 76 हो चुके हैं, तो इट इज ए गुड नंबर। बाकी और बढ़ जाएंगे, उससे कोई बात नहीं। तो ओवर टू संदीप, भाई शुरुआत करें फिर। थैंक यू
सो मच सर। प्रोग्राम की शुरुआत करने के पहले थोड़ा 2 लाइन में ब्रीफ रोहित जी के बारे में बोलना चाहूंगा। रोहित जी LLB भी है, कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट भी है, अपार्ट फ्रॉम CA, मोर देन 2 डिकेड ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस। जीएसटी इंडायरेक्ट टैक्सेशन में काफी बढ़िया एक्सपीरियंस रोहित जी का। रोहित जी एक संस्था है भारतीय वित्त सलाहकार समिति, उसके पास प्रेसिडेंट भी है। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट रोहित जी को एज ए इंडिपेंडेंट डायरेक्टर टेलीकम्युनिकेशन कंसल्टेंट इंडिया लिमिटेड में भी अपॉइंट किया गया है, भारत सरकार ने इनको अपॉइंट किया हुआ है। और तो फ्रेंड्स, एक छोटा सा ब्रीफ इंट्रोडक्शन था रोहित जी के लिए। अब मैं ज्यादा समय नहीं लेते हुए आई वुड लाइक टू रिक्वेस्ट रोहित जी टू स्टार्ट हिज डेलिब्रेशन।
बस मैं तो इतना जानता हूँ, रोहित जी प्रोफेशन में तो है ही, एक ट्रू प्रोफेशनल है। इसके अलावा एक अच्छे इंसान हैं और सामाजिक कार्यों के लिए हमेशा तत्पर है।
बिल्कुल
यही भी है।
Yes, can I start?
Sir, please.
Yes. Respected Durgadas Agrawal ji, founder convener of this August study circle, that is East Delhi Study Circle. Convener of the study circle, Sandeep Sharma ji, senior members of the profession who have joined through virtual mode, and my dear friends. It's always a privilege, first of all, to interact with the fellow members and the fellow professionals, and that too on the issue of the GST. तो GST एक ऐसा इशू है जिसको अब लगभग 5 साल पूरे होने जा रहे हैं, और 5 साल पूरे होने के साथ साथ भी उसके जो अपडेशंस हैं या उसकी जो डेवलपमेंट्स हैं वो और तेजी से वो चलती जा रही हैं. It is not that कि after 5 years the GST is the settled law. It is not like that. It is that now the recent developments are in multifold dimensions. If I talk about the recent development dimensions, there are one dimension which is related to the law, which we call the act or the rules, which are frequently being amended. And by way of Finance Act also, the CGST Act gets amendment. Apart from that, by the Amendment Act also, it got amended. And frequently we have the amendment in the CGST rules also. And that is, if you see the GST law, it is basically rule and notification based law. The act is the part, but major part of the compliance and the procedural part is by way of rules and the notifications. Another dimensions of the recent development is the GSTN portal. The portal in itself is a, working itself is an area where we professionals need to gather the information. We need to update ourselves for compliance related issues. Every month, day on day basis, the recent amendments, recent developments in the GSTN portal are coming. And apart from that, another dimension we can talk about the judicial pronouncement, which is, High Court and Supreme Court and other areas where we are getting the pronouncement, and that is also becoming the part of the GST journey. And apart from this, advance ruling is another area which have a persuasive value, and we need to check about the recent advance ruling which has been pronounced to take a management decision or the decision related to the taxation policies. And it helps us to understand how the department is thinking about any provision, or how the department has a thought process relating to the implementation of the GST on various aspects. So this is, to talk about the recent developments on GST is very difficult to choose that which area, which dimension we should cover in the recent development. And recently also, if you see the 45th GST Council meeting and 46th GST Council meeting recently held, there are many decisions which are taken care of, and many decisions which are rolled back or which are stayed, and like the the relief which was there for the inverted duty structure, whether you call it relief or not, that is another matter of discussion. But relating to the textile sector, that has been stayed, and we are on the same footing as we were earlier so far as the inverted duty structure is concerned. So with this background, let me share the presentation also that will help us to discuss the recent developments gradually, step by step. And we will try to cover the aspects which are of the importance for the day-to-day practice area, day-to-day compliance area for the GST professional chartered accountants. We will try to cover it out. Now, if you see one graph which is there from the GST Council, the revenue collection trends. And the revenue collection trends in this year, April onwards, is encouraging. And you can see from April to December, all the data of the revenue is on increasing trend. If you compare year to year, month to month, that data is showing blue color is for the current fiscal year, that is 21-22, and it is always higher than the yellow color which was in the last year. It means there is something to celebrate by the government, and steps taken up by the government machinery to boost the revenue in the GST, and they are seeing it a positive result. There are varied reasons, multiple reasons, even during the COVID, these types of results are coming. Another chart, this is very interesting chart, and this chart used to be discussed since implementation of the GST. In the initial time when the GST was coming in July 2017, there were several meetings, and I was also part of the many meetings. And the officials of the GSTN were discussing this chart since starting. What is the logic behind this, chart? And this has been issued after the completion of the 4 years of the GST, and now we are 4.5 years almost completed. The rationale behind this chart is that if you see that public limited company and private limited company, the registration is 6.01 and 0.58, total 6.5 roughly percent registration. And if we add the PSU 0.02%, it is almost 6.6% of the registration. Those who are contributing the revenue of say 35 plus 27 plus 8%, meaning there were almost more than 70% of the revenue is being contributed by only the 6.6% of the registration entities. And if you see the line of the proprietorship, you will find that 80% of the firms registered under the GST are proprietorship firm, and they are contributing 13% of the revenue in the GST. So that is the data speaks. And whenever we discuss the glitches and the compliance and the so many other glitches, the reason is that mostly the small sector and medium sector, they are facing the issues. There are varied reasons. They may not be having the full-fledged account departments. They may not be having the full-time chartered accountant on their role, and they are facing the compliance-related issues. But if you see the 7% of the registration which are in the organized sector, and they are contributing more than 70% of the revenue. One press release which came on 31st of December 2021, and that is relating to the textile sector. And the GST Council has recommended to defer the decision regarding the change of rate in textile, which was recommended by the 45th GST Council meeting. And now the similar rate is continuing, which was there prior to 31st December. But so far as the footwear industry is concerned, the change has been implemented, and now the rate of the footwear has been increased to merge to a single rate system. And they have tried to overcome the situation of inverted duty structure by way of increasing the tax on the output supply rather than reducing the tax on the inputs or the raw material part. And but so far as the textile is concerned, in raw material part, mainly the yarn, which is a raw material to make the fabric, and from fabric the garments are being prepared. The yarn, in many cases it is 12%, but the fabric goes at the rate of the 5%. The weavers and the manufacturers of the fabric is still facing the same issue. Again, after fabric, the value addition is very high. And that, in the garment industry, if the price of a particular garment is more than 1,000 rupees, then it is again going to 12%. And after value addition, the output tax liability exists. But if you see the chain of the transaction, the in between, the weavers community is facing the heat of the inverted duty structure, which was there earlier. They are buying the yarn at 12%. They are selling the fabric at 5%. That is the chain in between the garment and the fiber, which is the raw material for manufacturing the yarn itself. Then, very important part and the important discussion is related to the period of limitation, which has been relaxed by the Honorable Supreme Court. And that was way back in March 2020, 23rd day of March 2020. They came out with a, suo motu order, and they allowed the relief from 15th of March till further dates, because there are 3-4 further orders which has been issued. And then there was an order on 8th of March. Then there was a order on 27th of April 21, and which further extended the relief after the second wave of the COVID. And then the second wave of the COVID, after it has, surpassed, then there was again an order in September 2021, by which they were the Honorable Supreme Court recalled its earlier order. But now, after the third wave of the COVID, again the Supreme Court came out with the application of Advocates on Record of Supreme Court Association, and the order dated 10th January 2022. And they have allowed the relief back from the first order until 28th of February 2022. So it's a big relief from 15th of March till 28th of February. This relief has been given, and it will be extended for the limitation period. And this limitation period is for any law, whether general law or specific law, whether judicial proceedings or quasi-judicial proceedings, and at least 90 days time has been allowed after the end of the 28th of February 2022. You can go and file the applications, appeal, petitions, whether it is judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings. It's a very broad order. Earlier also we have discussed many times. It is covering, many types of applications. And after 27th of April 2021, when the quasi-judicial proceedings were added in this order, the scope of this suo motu order has enlarged to a great extent. And not only the litigant, but public word is also used. And it is relating to the petitions, applications, suits, appeals, and all other proceedings. But anyway, the department has interpreted this order, and they have issued a circular interpreting the judgment, this order of the Honorable Supreme Court in a different manner. And we have CBIC notifications related to the COVID relief. That was the 35/2020 and 14/2021. Basically, those notifications were of administrative limitations, and that was not meant for judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings. The administration limitation has already been ended, and these notifications have no effect. But the department came out with a clarification of the order dated 27th of April. As I told you, after the second wave, when it emerged, the Honorable Supreme Court issued a fresh order on 20th July 2021. The department came out with a circular, and they have interpreted the circular that the proceedings that need to be initiated or compliances that need to be done by the taxpayer, they say there is nothing to do with the Honorable Supreme Court order, and it will not apply to the proceeding or compliances. So far as the compliances are concerned, the notification, administrative notification, which just I have discussed, were giving reliefs to the COVID related problems. And the department further discussed about the quasi-judicial proceeding by the tax authorities, and they said that the quasi-judicial proceeding will also be here and disposed of by the tax authorities, and it will be done in a normal course of business, and which appeal which are filed and are pending can continue to be heard and disposed of. Even the department came out with the disposal of the quasi-judicial proceeding without taking into consideration the order issued by the Honorable Supreme Court. Initially, also in many seminars and many, webinars, I have categorically, specifically, the questions were asked before me also, that whether the refund applications will be covered under this order. And I was of the view, yes, because applications, petitions, and all other types of proceedings are covered. And after 27th April order, the quasi-judicial proceedings are also covered. The refund application would also be covered. But if you see the department circular is talking about only the appeals. Basically, appeals with the additional commissioner or commissioner appeal, or the appellate authority of advance ruling, or the tribunal, or the various court against the quasi-judicial order. And even proceeding for revision or rectification of any order is required to be undertaking. The timeline of the same would have extended as per the Honorable Supreme Court order. Now, if you see, this is the interpretation of the order by the CBIC by way of circular, which I am referring, circular number 157. And this, after this circular, and these two notifications which we were discussing, that has already been ended, and limitation relief has also been expired. There is no relief. Now we have the Bombay High Court judgment recently on 10th of January, and it has categorically says regarding the refund applications that since the period of limitation for filing the third refund application fall between the set period of 15th March 2020 and the 2nd October 2021, the said period stood excluded. Now the Honorable Bombay High Court has interpreted the this Honorable Supreme Court order to cover the refund applications also. And they have said, in our view, the impugned order passed by the respondent number 2 is contrary to the order passed by the Honorable Supreme Court and thus deserve to be quashed and set aside. Friend, this is not only the refund applications which are covered by this order of the Honorable Supreme Court. Many other proceedings, quasi-judicial proceedings would also be covered. If you see the large ambit of the order of the Honorable Supreme Court, if you see the mandate, there are so many other proceedings which are covered, but the department has interpreted by way of circular differently. And now we have the time, even that the limitation period, suppose 3-month limitation period is there for filing the appeal under the GST, and that 3-month period is ending after 15th March 2020. Keep in mind what I'm saying. If that 3 months period, it means if order has been passed on 16th December 19 or thereafter, if the 3 months period is ending after 15th of March 2020, you can still file an appeal, whether it is first appeal or even the tribunal is not there, but you have a right to file the appeal with the department, even if registration has been cancelled and the 3 months period is expiring after 15th March 2020, because revocation of registration applications, all the scheme has ended. There is no scheme which is giving relief, but still we can file appeal for registration cancellation and any other issue, whether the limitation period is ending, coming between this date. And not only this, even there are so many show cause notices being issued under the service tax law, and orders are being passed to raise the demand under service tax, because service tax limitation for October 2016 till June 2017 is still alive. If we see the limitation period of section 73 of the service tax, that is Finance Act 1994. And those all, appeal, you can still file within this extended period if your period is coming within this, between this, relief period. And after 28th of February also, you will get at least 90 days time to file the appeal. Even VAT order, VAT assessment orders, or orders of any other revenue law, that is, there used to be the luxury tax or entertainment tax, many other orders are being passed, ESI, PF, that appeal, all you can file within the extended period which has been allowed by the Honorable Supreme Court. So this is, important part to keep the professional ready, that even you can take the benefit of this order and go for taking the relief. And for refund applications also, where the 2 years time was ending between 15th of March 2020 till today, you can file the refund application and you can fight the case before the department with the help of this Honorable Supreme Court order and recently Bombay High Court order. Now, as I told you earlier, there are so many dimensions of the recent developments and the amendments being made. Let us try to cover up some of the important area where the recent developments has happened. And as Sandeep ji was saying initially, that from the 1st of January, there are certain amendments which has become effective, and those are the important amendments. And if you see, really the slowly the GSTN is also gradually developing its functionalities, and we need to understand the functionalities also to comply with the related provisions. Now, there is amendment in Rule 36.4 regarding the availing the ITC. This amendment is at par with the amendment in Section 16, subsection 2 of the CGST Act. Now, earlier, the benefit of leverage, which was given under Rule 36.4, like 20%, then reduced to 10%, and then 5%. Sorry. Now, no input tax credit shall be availed by the registered person in respect of invoices or debit notes, the details of which are required to be furnished under subsection 1 of the 37, unless the details of such invoice or debit notes have been furnished by the supplier and have been communicated to the registered person in Form Gstr 2B. Now, there are two limbs of this rule, and it is effective from 1st of January 2022. Both the limbs should be satisfied to make you claim the input tax credit. It is not only the invoice has been furnished in GSTR1, but it is also that the invoice is being reflected in the GSTR2B of the recipient. Now, there are, there is one coin, one is the heads and the tails. GSTR1 is the head of a coin and GSTR2B is the tails of a coin. It is a same coin. If you file the R1, then it will be reflected in 2B. Earlier used to be 2A. There cannot be, ideally, there cannot be a case if you furnish GSTR1 and it is not reflected in 2B, because once you furnish and it is accepted, it is an automated process, then it is being reflected in 2B. Now, there could be cases, some technical glitches are there, that the supplier has furnished the GSTR1 and it is not being reflected in 2B. Then you are, as per rule, you cannot claim the credit. You need to wait till it reflects in GSTR 2B. If you raise a ticket, if you raise a complaint, then later on, if it is being reflected in 2B, then you can claim the credit in the 2B, in the GSTR 3B for the period in which it is reflected in GSTR 2B. The important part is that the GSTR 2B is static, it is not dynamic. Suppose one invoice is not being reflected in 2B and that invoice is related to the December month. And GSTR 2B is generated on 14th of January. And if it is not being reflected, so it will never be reflected in GSTR 2B of December, which is generated in 14th of January. Even if there was a technical glitch and it is now reflecting in 2B, that will be reflected in 2B for the month of January. Because it is a static data, it is not dynamic data. In 2A, it will got amended. In 2A, you will see it, for the month of December itself when the technical problem is sorted out. But in 2B, it will be in the next 2B and you need to wait. Now the question comes, we will discuss 16(2) AA clause also, which is also notified effective from 1st of January 2022. This is the corresponding rules which is there. Now the question comes regarding the import. When there is an import bill of entry is there, the IGST is being paid to the custom department, and these IGST amount is reflecting in GSTR 2B now. And the system has been linked with the Ecommerce custom portal, and this is being reflected. But in many cases, the bill of entry is not being reflected in the GSTR 2B, and the one utility functionality has also been provided to fetch the data from the bill of entry. And once you fetch the data from the bill of entry, it will be reflected if the problem is sorted out, but that is also in the current month's GSTR 2B. Now the question comes, are you barred from taking the benefit of the IGST of the customs if it is not being reflected in GSTR 2B? The answer is no. The rule itself and the provision itself do not applicable to the import IGST. It is only applicable where section 37, that is the output tax liability of the local supplier, Where the 37(1) applies, in case of IGST paid on import, 37(1) is not applicable to the custom department. Even if the IGST is not reflecting in GSTR 2B for a particular month and you have the bill of entry in your possession, you can still claim the credit of the IGST even after 1st of January 2022. The rule and section both are not applicable to this kind of situation, and the invoice related to invoice service distributor ISD, you can take the credit without going for this rule 36(4). Now coming to some of the recent amendments under GST, that due date of filing GSTR 99C for financial year 2021 has been extended till 28th of February 2022. This is the, I think, the first extension for 2021, and it will be probably the last extension. And many returns were filed, but it has been further extended. And refund to foreign organizations, they have relaxed the provision for mentioning the unique identity number, UIN number on the invoices for claiming the refund by the United Nations agencies and embassies. And the time limit for voluntary payment against show cause notice under section 129(3) now rationalized. Now, you know, the section 129 and 30 has been delinked from section 74, 73 proceedings. That is basically the general mechanism for issuing the show cause notices. But 129 is the detention of goods during transit, and that is in contravention of the provisions of the GST law. And now, after the show cause notice is issued under section 129, the 7 days time has been allowed. You can make the voluntary payment in DRC3. And once you make the voluntary payment in DRC3, the proceedings will be concluded itself. And if you do not pay, the order will come under section 129 itself. And after order, if you pay, then it will not be a voluntary payment, it will be against an order, and against an order there is a mechanism for making the payment against that. So that has been rationalized. And one new rule 144A has been inserted for recovery of penalty under section 129(1). Now, earlier there was missing 144 rule was there only for the recovery of the taxes. Now the procedure has been prescribed for recovery of penalty also by sale of goods and conveyance which has been detained or seized in transit. There is a procedure how you will dispose of the goods, and the sale proceeds of the goods will be utilized for recovery of the penalty also. Apart from the tax and interest, the penalty also can be recovered. Now, another rule 154 has been amended to prescribe new procedure for disposal proceeds. The procedure for disposal, utilization of disposal proceeds has been newly notified, and new procedure has been prescribed. And in the new procedure, they have allowed the department to utilize the proceed first towards the penalty, and then towards the interest, and then towards the taxes. And if there is any balance amount pending, which is received by the department from sale of the goods which has been detained, which has been basically confiscated, and it has been sold by the department, and it will be given to the registered person or the person of the owner of the goods if he is unregistered. And rules for provisional attachment of property has been also rationalized. They have made so many amendments so far as the provisional attachment of the property is concerned, and they have given now opportunity for filing the application for objection against the provisional attachment of the property. And this government is working on a concept of SOPs, standard operating procedures. And for many cases, the SOPs has been prescribed, and including the attachment of the property also. And formally, they have given the opportunity by way of filing DRC 22A that you can file an objection against the attachment of the property, and that is provisional attachment for 1 year. The power has been given to the government. Now, there are certain amendments which was made by the Finance Act 2021. We are waiting for the Finance Bill 2022 to be tabled on 1st of February. Let's see how many changes, amendments are coming so far as the CGST amendment is concerned. And there has to be a certain amendments, although now the GST is the matter of the GST Council. But to give effect to the recommendations of the council, law needs to be amended, and the finance bill is the best recourse available to the government to amend the law related to the finance, because this is money bill basically, and the procedure to pass the money bill in the parliament is quite different from the normal bill which is being tabled. Also, money bill can be there in between the session, but it is the best time to give effect to the recommendations of the GST Council. And we know that there are many recommendations which are still pending to give effect by way of amendment in the law. So this is the slide I'm discussing relating to the amendment which was made by the Finance Act 2021, but now it has got effective from 1st of January 2022. This is the clause which I was just referring while discussing the rule 36.4 of the CGST rules, where now it is not only the furnishing of GSTR 1, but also being reflected, communicated by way of GSTR 2B to the recipient. And this is the mandate which has got effective, that the activity, this is related to the section 7. The another one is related to the 16. Let's first discuss section 16 first. The details of the invoice or debit notes referred to in the clause A has been furnished by the supplier. It is talking about only the invoice and debit note. It is not talking about the other duty paying documents, other tax paying documents. There are other tax payment documents also, like the bill of entry or the ISD invoice, but it is hitting only the invoice and debit note has been furnished by the supplier in the statement of outward supplies, and such details have been communicated to the recipient of such invoice or debit note in the manner specified under section 37, and the manner is GSTR 2B. So it has got effective from 1st of January. Another amendment, section 7, this is amendment to get the controversy to the rest, to get the discussions on judgments, Honorable Supreme Court judgment on the concept of mutuality, mainly under the Income Tax Act. And they have now tried to end these all controversy, and they have included this particular AA in the definition of supply itself. And by including it in the definition of supply, the corresponding amendment has also been made in Schedule 2 to the CGST Act, where any supply is treated as the supply of goods or services or both, which we will also discuss Schedule 2 amendment. The activities or transactions by a person other than individual to its members or constituents, or vice versa, for cash, deferred payment, or other valuable consideration. By a person to its members or constituents, or vice versa, both ways, it will be covered within the definition of supply. Now, there can be the technical issues in interpreting the law. There can be, issues relating to the language of the law. There can be the issues relating to the mandate given in Act and the mandate given in rules. But the virus of this, provision, the power of the government to make the law is supreme, and the government can deem anything but a man, a woman, and woman, a man, except this. The government has the wide enough power. Now they have included it within the definition of supply. Now let's see whether any occasion comes to where this virus is being challenged, that the government do not have the power to treat the supplies in between the constituents of the person to be a supply for the purpose of GST, but it is there and it is effective from 1st of January. As I told you while discussing the procedure relating to the utilizing the sale proceeds of the goods and as well as the payment of the amount within 7 days of the show cause notice under section 129(3). They have effective de-link from section 74. Now 74 is altogether independent section and 129 and 130 is altogether independent section. And then the amendment in Schedule 2, this, with effect from 1st of July, the earlier Section 7 amendment also and Schedule 2 amendments also have been retrospective from 1st of July 2017 from the date of implementation of the GST. And this particular clause, I think this was the 7-number clause, supply of goods by unincorporated association or body of persons to a member thereof for cash deferred payment or other valuable consideration has been removed. There is no need to keep it in Schedule 2 because it has earlier been clarified and amended also that Schedule 2 is not defining the supply. Schedule 2 is only defining if per se there is a supply, whether it will be a supply of goods or supply of services in the specific circumstances. Otherwise, general rule for goods and services definition will be applicable. So these are the amendments which have been applicable from 1st of January 2022. Some more amendment. Let's see what amendments are there. Tenure of the entry profiteering authority, has been extended. Now, earlier it was 2 years, then 4 years, and now it is 5 years from the date on which the chairman enters the office. So it will be extended by way of amendment in the rule. And now it will be 5 years. Form DRC3 has been amended. DRC3 form is the multi-purpose form. And if you see, while filing the annual return and reconciliation statement, this DRC3 form was being used. And now they have extended the columns in DRC3 form also, so that they can know that on what account you are depositing the voluntary payment. Basically, it is a voluntary payment. What is the purpose of voluntary payment is to avoid the penalty, importantly. Because if it is after the show cause notice or detection by the department, then the penalty provisions will be applied differently. And if you deposit it suo motu without any action or audit by the department, then it will be another scenario. So this is, they have now extended the columns in DRC3 to include the scrutiny. ASMT 10, if you are against ASMT 10, you are depositing the tax, you can select the scrutiny. Intimation of tax ascertained through form DRC 1A. 1A is basically summary of the show cause notice, where the show cause notice has already been issued on the similar issue, and that issue has been adjudicated. On the same issue, they will only issue a summary, and on the basis of summary, you can deposit it. If there is a mismatch in GSTR 1 and 3B, 1 is the output supply, details of output supply, and 3B is the detail of tax payment. And if you are making the less payment in 3B, you can make it by way of DRC3. There are, so many issues. We need to discuss whether we should pay by DRC3 or we should pay by GSTR 3B. It depends on the timings. It depends on the facts of the case. It depends on the reason for which you are depositing the tax. And they have, included mismatch of 2B and 3B also. And department has started sending the notices of mismatch in GSTR 2B and 3B. And we are getting the notices regularly. Even we are getting the notices regularly for GSTR 1 and 3B also. And recently we had many occasions that we found the notice being sent from April to December, whereas the GSTR 1 was filed and they have considered the turnover of GSTR 1, but they have considered the turnover of GSTR 3B only till November, because the time limit for filing GSTR 3B was not over and GSTR 1 was filed. So such a, funny type of notices are also coming. They are comparing 9 months with the 8 months. They are comparing 12 months with the 11 months. They are comparing, something in some of the notices, we are finding the head of the notice is talking about the output liability, but in the annexure, they are talking about the input tax credit. And the way of comparison is also very faulty. Types of notices have started coming, and we need to respond. We must respond to these types of notices wherever we have received the notice, and we must submit the details online or the available method by which we can submit, and this should be taken care of. Now, some of the GSTN utilities which are being GSTN portal is also working day and night to improve the functionalities, and we have many functionalities. One of the question has been raised in the Q&A section. Let me read the question. Our supplier issued invoices in the financial year 1920, but he did not file the GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. Later, his GST number cancelled on 1st April 2020, but he continued raising invoices on the same cancelled GST number. Now, last month, he has taken new GST number in the same name, and now he is saying that he will issue credit note in respect of the previous GST invoices and will issue new invoices on his new GST number for the past bill. Shall we accept his proposal? This is, something tricky proposals, and it used to come in the GST. Many tricks are there. Now, what to do? Because there were certain technical glitches. If your number got cancelled, there are so many intermingled issues also. You should have, restored the number, revocation of cancellation of number, or by way of filing of the appeal, so that you do not came in a situation where you need to only have the tricky situation. It is not only the trick of raising the invoice, it is related to the ITC also. It is related to the passing of the credit also. It is related to the GSTR 3B of the recipient also. Many issues are intermingled. So this is not a good idea which you have raised here. So I would rather say this is should have been avoided. Now coming to this GSTN portal utility, the self-assessment of interest, they have made a issue. The new functionality is there, which will be, we will be seeing from now onwards, and we will be working on it, that what types of features are there. But important part is that why this self-assessment interest utility is important. The important part of this utility is that in many cases you raise the invoice but do not furnish those invoices in GSTR1. So that is the important point. Suppose you have raised the invoice in the month of December 21, but due to any reason or shortage of fund or whatever, you have chosen not to furnish the invoices in the December GSTR 1 detail. And now you are filing those invoices in the January month. The whole output tax liability will get the, interest will be calculated. It is not on the differential amount after the, because you may be having a lot of ITC in the month of January, where you may need not to pay the GST in the month of January, but interest you may be liable to pay. And that is what it is an important part. They will be now calculating the interest on self-assessment basis, and it will be, available to you in the next month, like the late fee. When we file GSTR 3B late and in the next month, it is auto-populated. Let's see, I think initially it will be optional and you can check it there or correct it there, but slowly and gradually it might be mandatory also to follow the self-assessment interest. And it will be in the next month period of the GSTR 3B. And basically the calculation of interest, it is going to hit a very big, because now you are not taking it seriously. Many of the business classes are not taking it seriously to, calculate the interest on the output tax liability. So this is, the new era, which is going to start. and the functionality will arrive at the system computed interest on the basis of tax liability value declared by the taxpayers, along with the details about the period to which it pertains. So that is important. The past period invoices which you are uploading in the current returns, this whole amount of output tax will get the interest at the rate of 18%. So that is very important point. Advisory on revamped search HSN code functionality in the GST. They can give you n number of facilities, that is helpful also. But so far as this HSN code is concerned, I would want to give you the disclaimer, and which is there in this advisory also, and in last they have written, these descriptions as a part of search HSN facility have been provided purely as a measure of taxpayer facilitation and are not legally binding on the GST department. So you must understand that you cannot rely on any of the utility given by the GSTN or any other portal, and where basically what they have covered is the popular name, or in general the trade parlance. There are the name of the commodity which are popular, like if you talk about the Indian popular name, the papad or the sari or the lehenga, or any other name which is of the Indian name. Basically, when we see the HSN code system of the GST, it is based on the customs tariff. And the custom tariff, custom classification rule will prevail in any dispute. If you go for disputing, ultimately it is the custom classification rules which will prevail. But the point is that here basically the 4-digit HSN system which has been adopted, although they are asking to feed the 6-digit, and in some cases the 8-digit HSN is mandatory, but legally the 4-digit HSN has been adopted from the custom and the classification rules as per the custom law. So that is very important. We need to understand for the classification, and there are chapter notes, there are section notes in the Customs Tariff Act, there are rules for interpretation of the classification, that all you need to understand before reaching to a conclusion so far as the HSN code is concerned. And that is not a easy cake in many cases. And I have always cautioned regarding the classification of the goods, specifically the goods in many cases. And so far as the exemption notifications are concerned, they are to be read in a strict manner, word to word. We need to read what is covered, what is not covered, and what is covered is only covered. You cannot extend the coverage in the exemption notification. It needs to be interpreted strictly. And this is the link of the utility which has been given, the services, user services search, and you can go it without even login. And you can take the help of this utility. Certainly, it is helpful for doing the research and doing the legal exercise to identify a correct HSN for a particular commodity or service. Mainly commodity it is talking about. Now, there are certain changes in GSTR 1 form and invoice level furnishing, that a new dashboard and easy amendments and deletion of the records, document counts are there, color scheme is there, and number of records per page has been increased, and recipient wise count is also there. The important part is that now they are allowing to create the My Masters facility. And when you can create the masters of the supplier or recipient, you can easily find out the recipient which are already there, and there are offline tool to import the master or to upload the masters, and that offline tool can be used for future use. And it will be like drop down menu, and drop down base you can select the particular master, and not only the recipient or the supplier, you can create the master related to product, also related to HSN also. You can create the master for the relevant HSN. So that is the facility which is being provided. One another question has been posed by the same member, although it is a little bit lengthy, but let me try to understand. ASMT 10 has been issued. It is stated that there is a mismatch in R1 and 3B for the period April to December. However, there are no differences in sales or tax thereon between 1 and 3B. Both 1 and 3B are reconciled. However, in the notice referred above is stating difference of this much amount issued on 17 January before file. That I already discussed you. They are issuing the notices without even waiting for the 3B for the month of December. And there is no difference per se. Yes, you file the reply and submit your reconciliation month-wise, and you say that in your reconciliation, you have not considered the December 3B turnover, and hence this mismatch has been posed. So this is perfectly okay. You can file the reply, but you should file the reply. And that's what I discussed also. Now, this is, something it should have been. If the registration has been suspended, or means if the registration is temporarily suspended, so they have now allowed to enter in GSTR 1. What is happening, if the registration has been suspended, the supplier has no choice but to put it in B2C data. And then again, it's a problem when the suspension is revoked. Now, how to change it from B2C to B2B? It is also a cumbersome exercise that you will be changing it from B2C to B2B. Now, this validation from the GSTN portal has been removed. And now the taxpayer will be able to enter the GSTN of a suspended recipient, even in GSTR 1 and invoice furnishing facility. So that is a good, decision which has been taken. Once the registration is normal, active, then it should have been reflected in the GSTR 2B of the relevant person. Maybe in the month when it has been revoked, suspension has been revoked, it is reflected, and accordingly the person can file the return and take the benefit of the ITC also. So this is a functionality. Appeal form also, there is an integration in the appeal module with enforcement module. Now the appeal can be filed online for the order passed by the enforcement officers. Whenever these types of functionalities are being given by the GSTN portal, we need to keep in mind also that state level, it has some issues also, because some of the states are not using the full-fledged facility given by the GST, and they have their back office, separate, software separate, back office operations. So this is basically, when we talk about these functionalities, are moreover catering to the CGST department, but in many cases to the state department also. There are multiple states which are the stakeholders of this GSTN portal, and only the central government is one. And integration of the appeal module with the assessment module is also there. The taxpayer will now be able to file online appeal against order passed by a tax officer. Orders were coming earlier also, but now they have integrated the module. Let's see, 129 orders are also reflecting in this module or not. The time will tell whether these all types of orders are reflecting or not, but it is a welcome step so far as it is, digitally, e-governance in the GST and the digital governance. You need not to go to any department physically, pan India, to do the compliance or filing of the appeal. Now, there is one issue related to the reporting of the supplies notified under section 9555 of the e-commerce operator in 3B. Basically, there is a problem from 1st of January. This, restaurant service has been notified under section 95 when it is provided through e-commerce operator like Swiggy and Zomato. Basically, that is what being talked about. Whenever there is a supply through these e-commerce operator, it is neither in forward charge nor in reverse charge. There are, two general concepts we discuss. There is a forward charge, general charge as per section 9(1). And there is reverse charge also. There is 9.3 where the reverse charge is there. 9.4 is also there, but that is only for the notified goods or notified class of person. It is neither a forward charge nor the reverse charge. It is a mediator charge, 9.5. Neither the supplier nor the recipient is paying tax, but the mediator or the person who is the e-commerce operator is discharging the output tax liability as a supplier. Once he is discharging the output tax liability under 9.5, he becomes the supplier and he pays the tax. Whether the restaurant is registered or not, it doesn't make any difference, except one exclusion has been made for the specified premises like 5-star hotels where the declared tariff is 7,500 or more. They will not be covered under 9.5. They will be discharging their liability directly by the supplier. But in all other cases, whether the restaurant is registered or not, that will be discharged by the e-commerce operator, and the e-commerce operator will report it in 3.1a as a normal output tax. And the person, means the restaurant, who is not paying the tax because the tax is being paid by the e-commerce, he will reflect in 3.1c like the exempted goods or nil rate of tax category, and he will not be liable to pay any tax on those. So this is the via media which has been given, and till any other form is modified or given. Then implementation of the rule 59.6 in the GSTN portal. I think this utility is yet to be enabled fully, but it is applicable from 1st of January. As it has been, the rule has been made effective from 1st of January 59.6. Earlier it was that for 2 preceding months, if you have not filed GSTR 3B, you will not be able to file the GSTR 1 for subsequent month. But now it is only the preceding GSTR 3B. From 1st January onwards, if monthly filer has not filed the GSTR 3B for the preceding month, then such taxpayer will not be allowed to file GSTR 1 for the subsequent month. Now, it is required that you first file GSTR 3B for the last month to file the current month GSTR 1. And this functionality will also be, I think, from 1st of January it is there. Then from February month it will be available. And if you want to furnish the GSTR 1 in February and you have not submitted the GSTR 3B for January, you will not be allowed to furnish the GSTR 1 of January month. First, you need to furnish the GSTR 3B for the preceding month, maybe the December or January, whatever the preceding month is there, that you need to be furnished. And this will be checked. Now, from 1st of January onwards, there are certain cases where the mandatory Aadhaar authentication for registered person has also been implemented. Mandatory Aadhaar authentication. There are 3 cases mainly where Rule 10B has been inserted, and Rule 10B talks about the mandatory Aadhaar authentication, and it is there in the portal. I think we should all do the Aadhaar authentication. It is available optionally also, and you can go and do many of the supplier has done already the Aadhaar authentication. And said rule is mandatory for number 1, filing of application for revocation of cancellation. If you want to file the REG 21, you must have the Aadhaar authentication. If you are filing the refund application, RFD 1, it is mandatory. Refund of IGST paid on goods exported, like Rule 96, which is the refund given by the Custom Department. Although the IGST Act has been amended, Section 16 has been amended to restrict the refund to the exporter only in notified cases, but it is not effective. And that is what the new era we will see soon. And in these cases, it is mandatory. It is suggested that all the suppliers should do it immediately. Now there is one advisory from GSTR 2B, that is the month of October, that we are already having. Now GSTR 2B is the new Bible for the input tax credit. One benefit is there if we follow the GSTR 2B, and we have to follow, there is no choice given by the law from 1st of January 2022. Except the cases which I have already discussed. That 2B, if you follow this, so there is no overlapping, or there is no going back to the GSTR 2A like situation that every month you need to go back to all the preceding GSTR 2A. You can follow straight away GSTR 2B, and you can park the separate ledgers for mismatch. Or as required ledger can be parked in your books of account. And if something is mismatched from GSTR 2B, that figure, that invoice can be parked in the separate ledger. And in the future, that ledger keeps on updating, and it either shift to the normal ITC or it keep on pending. And with this exceptional ledgers, if you have in your books of account, like invoice not reflected in GSTR 2B, or invoice reflected in GSTR 2B but not in your books of account, then these exceptional ledger will give you the help, and a lot of help will be there, and this can be used by the professionals. And this GSTR 2B advisory was there, and this is related to the availability of the ITC. So now a time has come where the section 37 and 39 and section 16 are going to be implemented in a strict sense. And if any GSTR1 has been filed late, then this particular ITC will not be reflected at ITC available, and it will be, it will not be auto-populated, and it will be rather shown that ITC not available. And, will also not reflect ITC as per GSTR 2A in table 8 of GSTR 9. And correspondingly, in GSTR 9 annual return also, that amount will not be auto-reflected. It means if GSTR 1 has been filed late, or the invoice has been filed late, and that will not be reflected in GSTR 2B as ITC available, because the time limit for uploading the invoice is over, time limit for taking the credit is over. That was the 20th October for monthly filers, because that was the due date for the month of September 2021 for filing GSTR 3B. So that advisory has also been issued. Advisory relating to e-way bill where the principal supply is supply of service. There are many questions which were, industry is raising before the department, but already we have discussed when during the implementation of the e-way bill, lot of discussions were there, lot of seminars were there, that how do you generate the e-way bill in case of supply of services. We can have an example of works contract service. It is a supply of service. It is a declared supply of service as per Schedule 2 to the CGST Act. And in case of works contract, there are, movement of goods, because works contract related to movable property where the goods is also there, and goods move from the premises of the supplier to the recipient. So how do you generate the e-way bill? Because there will not be any service accounting code alone on the e-way bill. So then they have clarified, they have given the advisory, they only where the movement of goods is there, then only the e-way bill is required to be generated. In every transaction of services, the e-way bill is not required to be generated. And where the principal supply of service is there only the e-way bill will be required to be generated. And that also with the goods only. And you can put the details of service code after putting the main code of the goods which is being movement. So we were already saying, and it was a clear issue, even if in case of the supply of service, whether it is a renting of goods, renting of plant and machinery, job work transactions, or the works contract transaction, it is only the related to the goods where the e-way bill is required to be generated, and you can put the service codes at additional code only. Now, how they have clarified that, however, in cases where along with the principal supply of service, movement of some goods is also involved, e-way bill may be generated. Such situation may arise in case of supply of services like printing services, works contract services, catering services, pandal or shamiana. In such cases, e-way bill may be generated by entering the details of Hsn code of the goods along with the SAC code of the services involved. So both the code can be put in, and they have given the advisory related to that. So the second code will help you to justify the movement of goods during the transit, because in these cases generally the goods moves from the delivery challan, because there is no invoice being generated, because it is not against supply, but it is against the principal supply of service, and that types of movement is there. So it will help you clarifying your issues. On demand fetching of bill of entry, I have already told you that wherever the bill of entry is not being reflected in GSTR 2A or 2B, the functionality has been given in the GSTN portal. You can go and you can fetch the details of the bill of entry. But whenever you fetch the details of the bill of entry, it will be reflected in the GSTR 2B of the current month, and not it will be reflected in the month to which the bill of entry relates. Now, one of the important instructions was that issue of the show cause notice in case of the cases of fraud, or in case of the cases of fake invoices. There have been so many cases has been booked for claiming the ITC fraudulently, or claiming the ITC based on the fake invoices, but the show cause notices has been issued only in few cases. Friends, you need to appreciate the law. When the department has the evidence that against these invoices there is no actual supply of goods or services, or only it is a paper invoice, and that statement has been recorded, the whole of the chain of the recipients where the ITC has been claimed is hit by the provisions of section 16(2), because there is no actual supply of goods or services in those cases. And if the whole of the chain has been issued with the so-called notice to reverse the ITC, and that too with the interest, because that was the ITC wrongly claimed, that is a very severe situation, and many businesses are impacted with the huge demand. You can say that in the whole chain, if you ask there should be only tax one time, but basically this is the law of taxation. It has the multiple impact. Let us wait for any judicial precedent from the Honorable High Court or Supreme Court, which is giving relief to the multiple reversal of the ITC or multiple payment of the taxes. But so far as the law is concerned, GST law is concerned, if this show cause notice is issued to the whole of the chain of the recipients, then you are obliged to reverse, or you will have the opportunity to have the cross-examination of the evidence or the statement recorded by any person. If there is a statement recorded by the transporter, the truck number or the vehicle number mentioned on the invoice, and that has been said that I have not moved this truck and I have not moved this particular goods, then you need to cross-examine that person, or you need to otherwise prove that it is not only a paper invoice, there was the actual movement of goods or services. And basically, in case of services, it is very difficult to justify. In case of goods also, but vice versa is also true. So the board has given the instructions to the department that you should issue the show cause notices, because it is the time barring of 3 years or 5 years, which is there for issuance of the show cause notice. And this 3 years under section 73, generally it will be a case of 74. And in case of 74, it is the due date of the filing of the annual return, from where this 5 years limit will be calculated. And it is only a 6 months time or 3 months time is given to pass the order also. That's why they want that there should not be any case pending for investigation beyond 1 year. The department should complete the investigations also. And now when these types of show cause notices are coming, then to fight with these types of show cause notices, it will be a exercise which we need to be done. Earlier, while the 45th GST Council meeting, and there was a mandate to constitute a group of ministers on GST system reform, and it was constituted, and the mandate of this group was to review the IT tools and interface, identify the potential sources of evasion and suggest changes in business process and IT system to plug the revenue leakage, and to identify the possible use of data analysis. Now it is the era or age of the technology, and technology-driven law is going to be sustained. There is a technology in each and every domain of the business, in each and every vertical of the business process, and taxation is not far from that. Taxation is also using the latest technology, latest data analytics, latest mechanism for coordination, latest tools, what you call the artificial intelligence, to dig into the data and to take out the cases where the probable evasion of duties or evasion of taxes are there. So this group has been constituted there. You can put on the questions if there are any in the Q&A section, and I will be taken side by side. You can keep it. And recent amendments, some of the further recent amendments, this is reduction of maximum amount of late fee that has already been implemented, but that is important because that is applicable for June 21 onwards, and it is still applicable that for the turnover up to 5 crores, only for the small suppliers this benefit has been passed on, where the registered person whose amount of tax payable is nil, the late fee will be restricted to total 500 rupees. And if the person is having aggregate turnover up to 1.5 crore in the preceding financial year, then late fee will be restricted to 2,000 only, where the tax payable is not nil, but turnover is up to 1.5 crore. If the turnover is between 1.5 crore to 5 crore, the late fee will be restricted to 5,000 only, in place of the normal regular fee under section 47, which is 5,000 plus 5,000, 10,000, and per day amount is there. So you will end up, in case of nil return, only 500 rupees late fee per return, even if you file it late. And then they have given the relaxation for Gstr 4 for financial year 2021-22 onwards. In case of nil, the 500. In all other cases, it will be restricted to 2,000 only, because it is only up to the 1.5 crore where the Gstr 4 composition return is being filed. So this is also a a step given. We have already almost completed the annual filing. This is only the chart which is giving the current scenario for financial year 2021. Up to 2 crore, the annual return is optional and the reconciliation statement is not required. More than 2 crore, but up to 5 crore, the annual return is mandatory, but GSTR 9C is not required. And more than 5 crore, the mandatory annual return as well as mandatory reconciliation statement is required, but that reconciliation statement is self-certified. It is not certified by the chartered accountant or cost accountant. It is the self-certified reconciliation statement. I think, okay. Then we have certain clarifications, recent circulars which has been issued by the department. And there are many number of clarifications which have been issued in this year, and mainly from the month of September onwards. Many circular clarification has been issued. Let us see the recent one, latest. This is the recent guidelines for recovery of amount, policy being dated 7th January. In cases covered under explanation to subsection 12 of section 75. This is basically the recovery provisions of section 79, where if you are filing the GSTR 1 declaring any invoice, and if the tax is not paid, then it will be treated as self-assessment tax, and it will be recovered accordingly. So the issue is that if there is a GSTR 1 which you have filed, but GSTR 3B is not corresponding to the tax reflected in the GSTR 1, there could be genuine reasons also for difference in GSTR 1 and 3B, because 3B do not accept the negative figures. This we all know that it is a drawback. Very important drawback is that GSTR 3B do not accept minus figure. And if you are adjusting any tax relating to the preceding period, which is allowed to be adjusted as per the initial circular of December 2017, then what do you do? So they have prescribed a guidelines for recovery, and they have said first the proper officer will send a communication and issuing with the document identification number, and he will the proper officer will ask the registered person to pay the short amount or not paid, or to explain the reason for which the short payment or non-payment of self-assessed tax within a reasonable time as prescribed in a communication. Then if the concerned person is able to justify the difference, that is okay. And there may not be any requirement for initiating the recovery proceeding under section 79. 79 is the recovery mechanism, and recovery mechanism also there is a notice, and you can attach the bank, you can attach the properties, you can go for the recovery as per the various modes of the recovery. But if the registered person fails to reply to the proper officer, there is a communication from the proper officer. Listen, there is a difference in GSTR 1 and 3B. Now the point is coming, if you see carefully, we need to meticulously, reconcile our GSTR 3B with GSTR 1. And the mistakes are, paying off very heavy amount. You try to avoid any mistakes, because the mistakes will, change the figures of the succeeding GSTR 3B or 1. And in that case, you may find a notice from the department and explaining the reason why this difference occur. If you are filing your 1 and 3B meticulously without any mistake, then you are easy go, because it will not be hit by the artificial intelligence of the portal. And if the registered person fails to reply to the proper officer, then the proceeding for recovery of the said amount as per section 79 may be initiated by the proper officer. And where you reply but you fails to explain the reason of such difference, then also the proper officer will go for the recovery. Now the question comes in, sometimes each of the state is having their own way of working. Their officers have their own way of working. And how do you cope up with the working style of the officer? Like we have the example where the figures of the GSTR 3B for 8 months has been compared with the figures of the R1 of 9 months. Now what do you do? If R1 is higher, 3B is not higher, it will be a self-assessed tax. And it will be a self-assessment tax, then department has power to initiate the recovery proceedings. And recovery proceedings can be initiated under section 79. How do you cope up? with these types of situation? So this is the answer is only to have the up-to-date accounting, up-to-date filing and reconciliation mechanism, avoiding mistakes, and to do the work very seriously. And that is for the small business community also. And GST on service supplied by restaurant through e-commerce operators circular. This is a big circular dated 17th of December, because restaurant services, because it is deemed service under the GST. Detailed circular has been issued from the department from 1st of now it is taxable with the hands of the e-commerce operator. Now I would like to cover up the issues which are there in this circular number 167. Would ECO have to still collect the TCS in compliance with the section 52? There is no question of TCS. Once the e-commerce operator takes foot of the supplier, though he becomes supplier for that service, and when he becomes a supplier under section 9(5), he will be liable to make the payment. There is no question of TCS. And would ECO have to mandatorily take a separate registration with respect to supply of restaurant service? There is no such requirement under the GST law to take a separate registration for the e-commerce for the restaurant services, but there may be business call, there may be many other issues by which you would like to take a separate registration. The benefit is there to take a separate registration for the different premises. But it is certainly that if the e-commerce operator is having only registration as a TCS collector, then he has to take a registration as a supplier also by filing REG1 normal filing. But all the ECOs are already registered as a normal supplier also. They have the commission from the suppliers who are selling the goods through their portal or through their marketplace. So there is no such mandatory requirement. Would the ECO be liable to pay tax on supply of restaurant service made by unregistered? Yes, whether it is registered or unregistered, it is not a question. The question is that it should not be from the specified premises where the declared tariff is 7,500 or more. So that is the question. And what would be the aggregate turnover of persons supplying the restaurant service through ECO? The aggregate turnover will include the turnover even if where the any other person is liable for making the payment. So it is a turnover of the restaurant service, but he is not liable to pay the taxes. Any other person is liable to pay. That will be included. And can the supplies of restaurant service made by ECOs be recorded as inward supply? Not at all, because he becomes the supplier and he will discharge his liability as the output tax, and there is no question of treating it as the input supply. Would ECO be liable to reverse proportionately input tax credit on his input goods and services for the reason that input tax credit is not admissible on the restaurant service? Good question was there, and department has also rightly clarified there is no reason for proportionately reversal. This is not the turnover of ECO, but as a special measure, he is liable to pay tax on this. His normal course of business, normal supply, normal reversal of common inputs with the exempt supply vis-a-vis total supply will be there, and there is no question of proportionate reversal due to restaurant supply, because there is no ITC, but that doesn't hit the normal ITC. One question is also there. One of the client's customer died during COVID, and client wishes to reverse the GST paid on the sale invoices issued to the said customer, as now it is his bad debt. But as per my understanding, GST can't be reversed case of bad debts. There is no benefit given by the GST, only in case of the deficient supply or only in case of goods return. The credit note mechanism comes into the picture. There is no benefit given under GST for bad debts. So this proportionate reversal will not be required, and it has been clarified. Another question is, can e-commerce operator utilize the input tax credit to pay tax with respect to restaurant service? There is no question, because the condition given in the notification of the rate notification is that no input tax credit is utilized for paying the taxes, and that cannot be utilized for making the payment under section 9(5), and it has to be discharged in by way of cash ledger only. Would supply of goods or services other than restaurant services through ECO be taxed at 5% without ITC? This question is not appropriate question at all, because the rate of tax is on the type of supply of the goods or services, whatever the case may be. It cannot take color from the restaurant services. Restaurant service is 5%. It doesn't mean that the any other goods or services will also be at 5%. The rate of those goods or services which is not restaurant service will be decided as per the normal. And the department has also replied that on such supplies, GST will continue to be billed, collected, and deposited in the same manner as being done at present, and ECO will deposit TCS. Certainly, if it is a supply on behalf of another person, tax collection at source will be there. Another question comes, would restaurant service and goods or services other than restaurant service sold by a restaurant to a customer under same order be billed differently? Who shall be liable for raising the invoice in such cases? ECO is liable for raising the invoice in case of 9(5) services. Supplier is liable for raising the invoice in case of other services through e-commerce operator. Although practically in many cases, the big, e-commerce operator raise the invoice on behalf of the suppliers. They take the mandate power only from the supplier at the time of initial, registration. And in many cases, the goods is also stored at the godowns of the e-commerce operator. But it doesn't mean that the liability has been shifted. But certainly, in case of, restaurant service, the invoice liability comes with the e-commerce operator. And in both the cases, the invoice should be kept separately. So this is, advisable. Who will issue the invoice in respect of restaurant service supplied? In respect of through ECO, whether ECO, I have already clarified that it is ECO who will issue the invoice. Clarification may be issued as regard to reporting of restaurant services value and tax liability, etc. in the GST return. That has also been clarified in the advisory. I have already discussed that 3.1.c will be the reflection by the restaurant, and 3.1.a by the e-commerce operator, because it is tax is being paid by the e-commerce operator. And in case of GSTR 1, table 8 will be used by the restaurant wherever the supply has been through e-commerce operator. Now, certain refund related issues has also been discussed by way of a circular dated 17th November 2021. And I think one or two circular we will discuss, and then we will open the forum for the discussion. And if there are any questions will be there, we will be taking it up. Whether the provisions of subsection 1 of 54 of the CGS regarding the time period within which application refund can be filed would be applicable for cases of refund of excess balance in electronic cash ledger. The answer is no. Electronic cash ledger is basically not a refund. It is your account. It is not a refund of tax. It is not tax per se, neither ITC nor any tax. And the limitation period will not be applicable. There was a mechanism for claiming the refund earlier in GSTR 3, which was proposed at the time of implementation of GST, but that has not been implemented. So hence, there is no choice but to claim the refund by way of filing RFD1 application. Another issue comes whether any certificate or declaration is required in case of refund for electronic cash ledger. This is, unjust enrichment, the concept of unjust enrichment where the burden of tax has been passed, incidence of tax has been passed to any other person. When it is not a tax, there is no question of passing of the incidence of tax. And the concept of ledger, concept of unjust enrichment is not applicable in case of refund from electronic cash ledger. It has also been clarified. Whether the refund of TDS, TCS deposited in electronic cash ledger can be claimed. Actually, there was no doubt about it, but many cases the departmental officer were rejecting the refunds when they were claiming it from the TDS and TCS. Actually, we need to file a return of like TDS and TCS, then it is transferred to electronic cash ledger. Once it is transferred to the electronic cash ledger, it becomes part of the cash ledger, and like any other amount which is there in the electronic cash ledger, the refund can be claimed, and refund can be claimed in accordance with the provisions of section 54, and it has been clarified also. There is no hitch in this case. Further issue, what is the relevant date for refund of tax paid on supplies regarded as deemed export by the recipient? Now, in case of deemed export, basically it is not export. There are certain categories of recipient where if the supplier supplies those goods to the recipient like export oriented units or advanced license, under advanced license, then the benefit of notification of deemed export can be claimed. Deemed export is basically, it is not the physical export from the country of India, but it is going to in the hands of certain recipients. As we know, in the GST, there is no tax-free supplies for domestic supply, because this is practically a domestic supply, because there is no physical export, but it is supplied to the exporter who are going to ultimately export those goods. So the government has allowed the benefit of refund to the deemed export, and the benefit has been given to both the person, either by the supplier or by the recipient. The refund can be claimed against the notification issued. There are certain conditions which need to be fulfilled, and any one of the person can claim the refund. And for claiming the refund, there is a mechanism. Relevant date is prescribed and 2 years time limit is there. The question was from where this relevant date will be calculated for the recipient, whether it is from the filing of the return by the supplier, and the department has clarified on pursuit of the above. It is clear that clause B of the explanation 2 under 54 is applicable for determining the relevant date. Give me a minute break, just a minute.
Friends, seems some technical issue. Please wait for some time. He'll be back. Meanwhile, I would like to request all participants, if you have any queries, please post your queries in Q&A section. I think that will help us and a speaker to resolve each and every query. पार्टिसिपेंट आप सबसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि आपकी कोई क्वेरीज हैं तो आप प्लीज Q&A सेक्शन में डाल दें, तो रोहित जी को ये आसानी रहेगी कि वो 1 by 1 क्वेरी लेके उसको रिजॉल्व कर दें। थोड़ी टेक्निकल इश्यू है, प्लीज वेट फॉर सम टाइम. Now it's okay.
Yes,
Yeah, please Rohit ji.
I'm back again.
Yeah.
And this is, regarding, they have clarified the situation. The relevant date in respect of refund of amount of tax paid on supply of goods regarded as deemed export, irrespective of the fact whether the refund is claimed filed by the supplier or the recipient. So it is the relevant date is applicable, and it is further clarified that as tax on supply of goods regarded as deemed export would be paid by the supplier in his return. Therefore, the relevant date for the purpose of filing of the refund claim for refund of tax paid on such supplies would be the date of filing of the refund to the related to such supply by the supplier. So supplier date is important. That has been clarified. This is, clarification regarding the QR code. It is not much related when the place of supply is in India, but the amount has been received in convertible foreign exchange. So the question was posed whether in such cases of B2C supply, whether any captcha code is required to be generated. So they have clarified that in these cases where the recipient is located out of India, there is no question of generating the captcha code, and it is not mandatory because the payment is received through the RBI channel. So this has been clarified. Sandeep ji, can we open it now for the question answer session, or I think 15 minutes time is there.
Rohit ji, I have already requested participant to share questions.
And few questions are there. Let me check out.
I think आपने कर दिया है सारा already.
संदीप जी,
हाँ जी सुन रहा हूँ.
Okay, let's do one or two more clarification.
Where is आपने
Yes, can you hear me?
पहले तो वही बता रहे हैं. नॉर्मली क्या होता है जब आप फर्स्ट
Another important guidelines is relating to the blocking of the ITC. There is a blocking of ITC by the department in many cases. And a new rule 86A has been inserted in the CGST rules where, the department, the officer has been given power to block the ITC. And blocking is basically the ITC cannot be used for paying the tax liability, and that is blocked for temporary, provisionally blocked, and the period is 1 year time limit is there. And as per rule 86A, there are certain circumstances when only this blocking of ITC can be done. The first one is the credit is availed by the registered person on the invoices or debit notes issued by its supplier who is found to be non-existent. It means the dummy firm. Invoices issued by the dummy firm if the ITC has been claimed. If there is a physical verification of the supplier and he found to be non-existent, so they can check the recipient of those invoices and they can block the input tax credit related to that. And another is that without actually receiving any goods or services or both, when the credit has been availed without receiving, as I have discussed relating to the fake invoices case where the show cause notices are being issued and the guidelines relating to show cause notices has also been given. So in this case also the ITC can be blocked. And where the amount of tax has not been paid by the supplier, there has been a lot of discussion whether if the supplier is not paying the tax, whether the recipient is obliged to take the credit or not to take the tax credit. But the department has gone one step further, that the credit availed by the registered person on the invoices, the tax in respect of which has not been paid to the government. Even if the recipient has taken the credit on those invoices, the department can block the input tax credit. And where the ITC has been claimed found business from a place not declared in the registration. So it means the business is being carried out from a place which is not declared in the registration certificate, and this is basically similar to the non-existent, or you are doing a business from another place which is not declared. In that case also this ITC blocking can be there, or where the ITC has been availed without having any invoice or debit note or any other valid document. Initially what happened in GSTR 3B, many cases ITC were claimed without having any proper document, and by way of mistake or any other reason, the ITC were claimed and later on it were reversed. Now the department has key that can be blocked, and if you are claiming the ITC more than GSTR 2B, they will just ask you the reason for differences, and if the reason is not explained, the ITC can be blocked. Even the rule 86A gives the power to block the ITC, but in that case the guidelines has been issued by the department, by the CBIC GST policy wing, where they have clarified that these power must be exercised in judicious manner. It must be exercised where there is a reason to believe. It should not be used in a mechanical manner that in all cases you will block the ITC, and utmost care will be taken and maximum care and caution will be taken while blocking the ITC, and there should be a proper recording, proper material evidence should be available with the proper officer, and there should be a reason to believe, and reason to believe shall be duly recorded by the concerned officer in writing, and then only he proceed to block the ITC, or we can say disallow the debit from the amount from the electronic cash ledger. That is the same thing. So this is the protocol, this is the standard operating procedure which should be followed by the department, and the officer hierarchy has also been discussed. Basically, it is the commissioner or the officer not below the rank of assistant commissioner, which is authorized by the commissioner. And further, basically, the DGGI, Director General of GST Intelligence, has also been given power to block the ITC in the similar manner like the commissioner hierarchy has been given the power. And they have further clarified that if during the audit, some material has been found by the audit party that this ITC has been taken, which needs to be blocked, the audit party, audit commissionerate can write to the jurisdictional commissioner, and then the jurisdictional commissioner will take the action accordingly and block the ITC in the appropriate cases. The cases I have discussed, in these cases, the power has been given to the department to block the ITC wherever it is applicable. Sandeep ji, can you hear me?
हाँ जी रोहित जी, आवाज आ रही है क्या? Hello.
There is one query which is there. Supplier has wrongly shown bill and credit note against the same in its GSTR1. The bill does not belong to the buyer. How to treat this in GSTR 3B of the buyer? You know, if buyer is the invoice is not belonging to the buyer, then there is no question of taking of the credit in GSTR 3B. It is not that whatever is coming, you will claim it to be yourself. Sometimes in bank also you have the credits in your account which is not belonging to you. So you should immediately intimate to the banks. In the similar manner, if some credit is reflecting in the buyer's account which is not belonging to the buyers, I think it should not be claimed, and it should be kept in abeyance till the correction. Yes, Sandeep ji, is there any other question we can take up?
No, Rohit ji, there is no question as such. You have already answered 4 queries.
Your voice is not coming.
Rohit ji, you have already answered 4 queries. There is no other queries
Sandeep
here.
ji, your device is either not connected, although you are unmute, but your voice is not coming.
Let me check just a bit. अब आ रही रोहित जी?
Please check your mic.
Hello. अब क्लियर है?
Mic is not connected.
जस्ट अ मिनट। ठीक है। नो, हेलो हेलो हेलो
वन क्वेरी,
सर।
दुर्गादास जी, कैन यू स्पीक? आप बोलिए।
नो 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 सर, चलो अभी क्वेरी ले रहे हैं ना आप?
नहीं,
हाँ संदीप, क्वेरी चल रही थी ना अभी आपकी?
हाँ जी सर, क्वेरी आवाज आ रही है मेरी सर?
यस यस
हाँ, आ रही है।
यस, आ गई आवाज।
हाँ, अब आ गई। रोहित जी, आपकी चार क्वेरीज थी, तो आपने उस चारों का आंसर दे दिया। एंड आई हैव रिक्वेस्टेड पार्टिसिपेंट
एक और क्वेरी चैट बॉक्स में है, मैं उसको आंसर कर देता हूँ।
हाँ जी,
चैट बॉक्स में एक क्वेरी है। वन
लोकेश जैन जी।
SSC of GST paid on Noida Authority on annual lease rental in 2017-18 based on the challan issued by the Noida Authority, however not reflected in 2A. Now received
जी
ASMT 10. What can be ideal reply since 2017-18 GST 2A was not available? Yes, for 17-18 GST 2A was not available, nor this amendment in section 16(2) clause AA was there. There was no prohibition. Only the thing was that section 16(2) condition that tax has been paid by the supplier was there. So based on the challan, you can very well take the credit and you can fight a case even if there is a variation in GST 2A with 3B.
जी। रोहित जी, एक क्वेरी है। अभी जो ऑडिट चल रही है, जीएसटी ऑडिट।
यस यस, बताइए।
जी जी, तो उसमें क्या हो रहा है रोहित जी, कि जस्ट लेट से नोएडा में जीएसटी की ऑडिट चल रही है, तो डिपार्टमेंट वाले क्या कर रहे हैं कि प्रीमिसेस जिन्होंने रेंटेड प्रीमिसेस ले रखा है और रेंट उन्होंने आईजीएसटी में जीएसटी पेमेंट कर रखा है, वहाँ पे दे आर नॉट अलाउइंग इट, राइट। वो बोल रहे हैं नहीं, आपने आईजीएसटी में क्यों कर रखा है, तो वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू अलाउ दिस। तो ये चल रही है, तो क्या करना चाहिए अपने को?
नहीं, इसमें एक बार दोबारा समझ लेते हैं आपकी क्वेरी को कि प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई तो ठीक है ना, जहां पे प्रॉपर्टी लोकेटेड है।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
तो देर इज नो क्वेश्चन ऑफ डिसअलाउंस। जब प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई सेम स्टेट है जहां पे प्रॉपर्टी लोकेटेड है, फिर वो भले सीजीएसटी हो या एसजीएसटी हो या आईजीएसटी हो, उसी स्टेट में आ रहा है, आईटीसी मिलेगा। यदि लोकेशन ऑफ द सप्लायर उस स्टेट में नहीं थी, उसका रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं था, तो देर इज नो क्वेश्चन ऑफ डिनायल और आईटीसी।
जी जी। जनरली केसेस क्या हो रहे हैं कि दिल्ली में ओनर है और नोएडा में उनकी फैक्ट्री थी, उन्होंने लीज आउट किया था, क्लाइंट नोएडा का ही उसने लिया था, तो ओनर इज रेजिंग बिल विथ आईजीएसटी क्योंकि दिल्ली में रजिस्ट्रेशन था उनका।
एक्चुअल में क्या है, जो प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई के प्रोविजंस हैं उसको लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर से कंफ्यूज करके देखा जा रहा है। तो इसलिए जीएसटी लॉ में ऐसा नहीं है। बहुत सारे केसेस में भी डिपार्टमेंट ने इशू रेज किए हैं। अभी भी क्या है, आप जीएसटी ऑडिट में देखेंगे तो डिपार्टमेंट का वही एक्साइज वाला एटीट्यूड रहता है। कई केसेस में आप इस तरह के केसेस भी पाएंगे जो वो ये कहते हैं कि ये तो आपको आईटीसी मिलेगा ही नहीं। बोले क्यों नहीं मिलेगा? बोले ये तो आपके सेल से रिलेटेड है ही नहीं, गुड्स से रिलेटेड। अरे भाई, सिक्योरिटी एजेंसी है, मान लो आपने अपने गोडाउन के लिए दी हुई है या इंश्योरेंस कराया हुआ है या बैंक चार्जेस दिए हुए, वो कहते हैं आपकी तो सेल से रिलेटेड ही नहीं। फर्दरेंस ऑफ बिजनेस, वो फर्दरेंस ऑफ बिजनेस को अलग तरीके से इंटरप्रेट कर रहे हैं, वो अपने एक्साइज रिजिम में कर रहे हैं, यानी कि दे आर चेकिंग इट 1-to-1 कोरिलेशन की वो आपकी सेल से डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड है कि नहीं है। तो जैसे ये वाला इशू है, ऐसे यूपी में तो बहुत सारे इश्यूज आए थे शुरू में, जब गुड्स इन ट्रांजिट डिटेन हुआ था 129 में कि टैक्स कौन सा पे करना है, आईजीएसटी पे करना है या सीजीएसटी एसजीएसटी पे करना है। अब तो काफी कुछ स्टेबलाइज हो गया है, बट देर इज नो क्वेश्चन। इस तरह के शोकॉज नोटिस यदि आते हैं तो ये इजीली हम लोग फाइट कर सकते हैं और डिपार्टमेंट को भी समझ में आएगा धीरे धीरे।
जी 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 रोहित जी। रोहित जी, एक नॉर्मल और भी चीजें हो रही है, अगर आप खासकर कंस्ट्रक्शन इंडस्ट्रीज को लेंगे
जी
या मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है, एक्सपोर्टर्स है गारमेंट वगैरह में, तो उसमें आ रही है कि पार्टी जो जॉब वर्कर हो रहे हैं, जॉब वर्कर होते हैं, उन्होंने एक बिल दिया हुआ विथ जीएसटी। जॉब वर्कर ने बिल रेज किया क्लाइंट
जी
को, तो उसने एक्स अमाउंट विथ जीएसटी अमाउंट कर दिया, बिल रेज कर दिया। बट व्हाट दे यूज्ड टू डू कि वो उसको रिटर्न को अपलोड नहीं करते हैं या फाइल नहीं करते हैं उसको बिल को। वो एक्चुअल वही जमा कराते हैं जितना उनको रिसीव होता है पैसा, और उसकी फिर से अलग से बिल बना देते हैं।
देखिए, इनवॉइस को लेकर के सेंस तो आना चाहिए। जहां तक इनवॉइसिंग सेंस है उसमें इवन इफ इट इज इंक्लूडिंग जीएसटी है तब भी आपको अलग से जीएसटी अमाउंट मेंशन करना मैंडेटरी है। दूसरी बात, रिसीट बेस का कोई सिस्टम जीएसटी लॉ में नहीं है। जब आपका टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई आ गया तो आपको इनवॉइस रेज करना पड़ेगा विद इन द टाइम, और आप इनवॉइस रेज करेंगे तो वो अमाउंट आपको जमा कराना पड़ेगा। एक ही सप्लाई के अगेंस्ट दो इनवॉइस नहीं हो सकते। ये तो अवेयरनेस की जरूरत है, उनको आपको अवेयरनेस करनी पड़ेगी, एजुकेटिंग करना पड़ेगा, गाइडिंग करनी पड़ेगी। अभी मैंने आपको दिखाया था एक चार्ट शुरू में, यदि आपको ध्यान हो संदीप जी, कि प्रोप्राइटरशिप फर्म कितने परसेंट है और वो कितने परसेंट टैक्स में कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं। ध्यान है आपको?
जी जी।
तो ये वो सब प्रोप्राइटरशिप फर्में हैं जहाँ पे एजुकेशन, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग, ट्रेनिंग, स्किल डेवलपमेंट, अकाउंटिंग सेंस, इनवॉइसिंग सेंस, फाइलिंग, और ये सब आपको एजुकेट करना पड़ेगा।
जी जी जी, बिल्कुल रोहित जी।
तो ये सारे इश्यूज हैं, और भी बहुत सारे। देखिए, रीसेंट डेवलपमेंट मैंने आपको बताया कि रीसेंट डेवलपमेंट क्या है कि मल्टीफोल्ड है। तो काफी मेंबर्स ज्वाइन रहे, सुन रहे थे, मुझे लगता है क्वेरीज भी आई हैं, पर उस हिसाब से जो मल्टीफोल्ड डेवलपमेंट्स हैं उसमें आप कुछ एरिया ही टच कर सकते हैं। अभी हम लिटिगेशन का एरिया पकड़े हैं तो वो तो बिल्कुल एक अनलिमिटेड एरिया है। वहाँ बहुत सारे तरह की डिफरेंट वैरायटी ऑफ जजमेंट्स। एडवांस रूलिंग को हम देखें तो बिल्कुल ही टोटली डिफरेंट डोमेन है। तो बहुत सारे डोमेन्स हैं। अब तो जीएसटी लॉ धीरे धीरे मैच्योरिटी की ओर जा रहा है, लेकिन ये बात तय है कि अभी इसको हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि जीएसटी लॉ इज नाउ सेटल्ड लॉ और स्टेब्लिश लॉ। अभी अंडर सेटल, अभी ये अंडर ग्रेजुअली, जिसे कहना चाहिए इम्प्लीमेंटेशन स्टेज में ही है 5 साल में, और इसमें 2-3 साल लग सकते हैं ऐसा लगता है जिस हिसाब से। और अभी एक और डिस्कशन स्टार्ट हो गया है। आप देखिए, जो आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव चल रहा है, 75 साल जो हुए हैं, तो एक बहस गवर्नमेंट में छेड़ी गई है, एक एजेंडा सब जगह दिया गया है कि ये जो आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव है, इसमें हम 2047, जब आजादी को 100 साल पूरे होंगे 2047 में, उसमें हम किस रूप में देखते हैं। और 2047 को लेकर के बहुत सारी बहस और डिस्कशन अलग अलग डोमेन में स्टार्ट हो गई हैं। तो हर फ्रंट में ये भी डिस्कस हो रहा है कि आगे आप स्ट्रक्चर को, टैक्सेशन को, इनकम टैक्स को आप 2047 में किस रूप से देखते हैं। जीएसटी भी उसका पार्ट है। तो ये मुझे लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं अब आगे के और सालों में बहुत चेंज आने वाले हैं टैक्सेशन सिस्टम में अभी, और जिसे कहना चाहिए कि हम आगे चेंजेस देखेंगे जल्दी।
जी जी, बहुत बढ़िया रोहित जी। आई बिलीव सब अच्छा होगा, अच्छे के लिए होगा, और कहीं ना कहीं ये हमारे देश की प्रगति के लिए, इकोनॉमी के लिए बड़ा ही पॉजिटिव मूव साबित होगा। अब समय हो चुका है, तो थैंक यू सो मच रोहित जी। आप आए और अपने अपने बिजी शेड्यूल से टाइम निकाला, और प्रोग्राम बहुत ही अच्छा था, थ्रू आउट वेरी रिसोर्सफुल, नॉलेजेबल। और आई ऑलवेज से कि जैसे आपको सुनना तो बड़ा अच्छा लगता है, तो थ्रू आउट एंजॉय किया हमने। पार्टिसिपेंट्स का ही बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। पार्टिसिपेंट्स अराउंड आज 150 के आसपास थे, और आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आप आए और आपने प्रोग्राम को इंटरेक्टिव बनाए रखा। Before moving further, I would like to request our founder convener, Dr. Shri Durgadas Agarwal ji, to conclude the session. So, over to you, sir.
थैंक यू रोहित जी, थैंक यू संदीप।
वेलकम सर।
हम देखते हैं जो हम वेबिनार करते हैं कि 2 घंटे भी ऐसा लगता है कि एक स्पीकर के लिए कम पड़ गए। पिछले 3-4 दिन से तो यही देख रहा हूँ।
जी जी। कल भी कम पड़ गया था।
हाँ, मतलब इतना कुछ होता है, इतनी क्वेरीज होती है, लोगों की पूरी क्वेरी रिजॉल्व नहीं हो पाती। और जैसे रोहित जी कह रहे थे कि चेंजेस, तो जब हम मैनेजमेंट में पढ़ते थे, जब इंटर में पढ़ते थे, तो एक सेंटेंस होता था, नथिंग इज परमानेंट एक्सेप्ट चेंज। तो चेंज इनएविटेबल है, एवरी मोमेंट देयर कैन बी अ चेंज। अभी मैं कुछ दिन पहले पढ़ रहा था, किसी व्हाट्सएप पे था कि मतलब हमारे एफएम का ही फोटो लगा रखा था कि एक्सपेंडिचर टैक्स के बारे में भी कुछ शायद उनका विचार चल रहा है। अब पता नहीं इनकम टैक्स को बदल के, क्योंकि भाई एसएससी तो वही 6-7 करोड़ है, उसमें से हार्डली 50 लाख 1 करोड़ लोग टैक्स देते हैं, बाकी तो बहुत मीगर टैक्स होता है, तो सैलरीड वालों का होता है या बड़ी बिग कॉर्पोरेट्स का। तो हो सकता है एक्सपेंडिचर टैक्स पे भी कुछ प्लानिंग बन जाए, जैसे 100 साल पूरे होने पर पता नहीं क्या सिस्टम बैठेगा, ये तो समय बताएगा। हमारा स्टडी सर्किल का काम है कि ऑर्गेनाइज कर देना प्रोग्राम और जो प्रेजेंट सिचुएशन है वो लोगों के सामने रख देनी। तो लोगों ने एंजॉय किया, काफी क्वेश्चन पूछे, और जीएसटी पे तो खैर देखो रोहित जी हमारे पास है, लेकिन मैं समझ रहा हूँ कि जो 2017 में जो एक्ट था, वो एक्ट से कहीं कुछ रहा ही नहीं। देखा जाए तो अगर रूल्स आपने अमेंडमेंट नहीं देखे तो उसका कोई अब बेसिक भी नहीं बचा उसका। देखा जाए अगर उसी पे हम चले कि ये एक्ट है, ये एक्ट ये कहता है, तो उससे बात नहीं बननी। तो इसीलिए हम एवरी मंथ ऑलमोस्ट एक जीएसटी पे सेमिनार कर लेते हैं। तो आज का लोगों ने बड़े अच्छे से सुना, आनंद आया, तो इन सब के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद रोहित जी का, और संदीप आपका भी, आप बड़ा पेन लेके स्टडी सर्किल को चला रहे हैं, और मोस्टली पार्टिसिपेंट्स जो करीब 150 पार्टिसिपेंट जुड़े रहे, तो सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और आप के कन्वीनर, आप घोषणा करें कि हाँ कार्यक्रम समाप्त हुआ, और कल के बारे में भी और बता दें मेंबर्स को।
थैंक यू सो मच सर, थैंक्स अ लॉट। फ्रेंड्स, कल हमारी श्रेणी की लास्ट वेबिनार होगी। प्रमोद जैन जी आएंगे जो सीसीएम में है। टाइमिंग विल बी सेम 4 to 6। तो आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप जरूर ज्वाइन करें, ज्यादा से ज्यादा फायदा उठाएं। थैंक यू सो मच रोहित जी आने के लिए, थैंक्स अ लॉट। आपका भी धन्यवाद सर।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू एवरीवन, जय श्री कृष्णा।
थैंक यू सो मच।
ममता।